Hi everybody, happy Wednesday. I think I maybe jumped the gun by a minute or two. So I'm just gonna hang out and wait and see. Give you guys a minute. Make sure we're up and running as usual. All right, everything looks good over here. All right. Welcome. Today we are going to be talking about the building blocks of self-love. So, how do we get to a place of not knowing how to love ourselves to actively and truly loving ourselves? I have found that there are some stepping stones, some building blocks that kind of get us there to help us along the way. We're going to talk about those tonight. I hope that picture and sound and everything is going okay on your end. I'm using a new phone. I upgraded my phone, so hopefully the sound is better. If you're having any issues, let me know. Okay, let's get going, guys. So, the building blocks of self-love. We know that we're supposed to love ourselves. We know that this is an important part of our journey, but for so many of us, especially those of us who have struggled with weight issues and confidence issues for the majority of our lives, learning to love ourselves feels like not only daunting, but it can feel almost impossible. It can be like, I'm never going to get there. I don't know how to do this. This isn't going to happen. Thankfully, though, self-love is something that can be learned. It's not something that you either just have or you don't have. You can actually learn it. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We can't really go, well, first, I also just want to say that I am not sitting here. I'm not going to pretend like I'm all the way there. Like I have arrived at some, palace of self-love that I'm just living in all the time. That's not my reality. So I don't want you to misunderstand. I don't want to misrepresent what I'm talking about or where I'm at. What I know is that I am at a very different place than I was 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. So I know that you can learn self-love over time, that this is something that we can acquire, that it's a skill that we can teach ourselves how to do. So that's what we're going to try to work on tonight. We cannot go from self-hatred or even from indifference or apathy. We can't go from that to total self-love and self-acceptance overnight. That's not an overnight. I'm not going to give you some bullet points and then you're going to know exactly what to do, some things to check off, and now you're there. Obviously, it's a much more complex process than that. But hopefully, the points that I give you tonight, the building blocks that I share with you will help you along your journey and help you further down the path of self-love. Okay? So, I really have 4 points that I want to talk to you about, 4 specific building blocks. And to me, I kind of picture them as like kind of the 4 cornerstones of a house, like building like the corners of the foundation, right? So kind of 4 points to build your house of self-love on. That's how I want you to see these points tonight, okay? Excuse me. Number 1 is self-respect. Self-respect takes several forms. When we refuse to allow anyone to speak to us disrespectfully, we're practicing self-respect. When we listen to our bodies and stop eating when we are full, we're practicing self-respect. When we ask for a raise that we know that we deserve, we're practicing self-respect. When we confront someone who has hurt us, we are practicing self-respect. I want to give you an example of this. I'm still learning and growing in these areas. I want you guys to know that. But I was hanging out with a friend, and he had said that he was going to cook dinner for me, or for us or whatever. And we could kind of tag team dinner sometimes. We'd, cook for each other and sometimes cook together, do zone defense or whatever. But he was kind of gonna, he could kind of hinted that he was gonna cook, and then it sort of ended up that like I was in the kitchen and I was cooking, and he was like, thank you so much for doing that. And I'm like, no problem, I totally don't mind. But then toward, 30 minutes in, 20 minutes in, he kind of came in and took over and started doing things differently than I was doing them. And it just rubbed me the wrong way. It rubbed me the wrong way. I felt like it just bugged me. And I sat on it for a little bit. I could tell it was kind of stewing inside. You know that feeling when you're like, man, that pushed a button for me. And I ended up, it was very, very uncomfortable for me, but I did speak up and say something. And I said, when I'm the one that's supposed to be cooking, when we've decided that I'm going to cook, and I start to do that, but then you take over, it really bothers me. And I feel like if you know how you want something to be done, if you want something cooked in a particular way, don't ask me to do it, dude. Do it yourself. And I was able to communicate that in a way that was not hurtful, not harmful, I wasn't angry. I just said, you know what? That didn't sit well with me. That was me. That's an example of self-respect, that I'm not going to let that go unspoken. I'm going to find a polite way to say, either let me do it or you do it, but don't take over. I'm not incapable. Like, we figured it out. And he was so gracious and wonderful. And he was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I won't do that again. Done. So easy. Who knew? I am a person who stuffed my feelings and did not voice things that hurt me, did not voice ways that I felt betrayed or disrespected. I stuffed it all with food. And I have learned to respect myself enough to say what I need. And I'm still growing in that. And I was really proud of myself that night. So that's just an example of self-respect and how little tiny steps that we can take to help us grow in these areas. So saying no is a huge step in self-respect. Saying no to an event that we don't want to attend, saying no to a situation that makes us uncomfortable, saying no to a request for help that's asking more than we want or are able to give, that is practicing self-respect. If I could wrap up self-respect in a single word, that word would be boundaries. I read a quote recently that fits really well. It says, no is a necessary magic. No draws a circle around you with chalk and says, I have given enough. I love that so much. Practicing healthy boundaries in all of the areas of your life is a foundation of self-respect. Boundaries are the foundation of self-respect, and self-respect is the first building block of self-love. So learning to voice your needs, your opinions, your wants, your desires, that I can't do that, that's too much, or don't say this to me, don't do that to me, don't look at me that way, don't talk to me that way, whatever it is, we can do all those things in a kind way. I'm not just saying, be awful, that we are allowed to have boundaries. And I think a lot of us, especially women, struggle with that. And we feel like we're supposed to be nice all the time. And then we let ourselves be doormats because of that. So boundaries are the foundation of self-respect. And self-respect is a building block of self-love. So that's number one, self-respect. Building block number two is self-care. Another building block of self-love is self-care. Again, self-care takes many forms. It overlaps some of the practices that I mentioned with self-respect, caring for yourself, creating boundaries is also a form of self-care. So there's some overlap. When we say self-care, a lot of times we think about the things like getting a massage or getting a facial or getting a pedicure or buying a lip gloss or painting our toenails or whatever. And yes, these are forms of self-care. These absolutely are forms of self-care, but it goes so much farther beyond that. We're selling ourselves short if we think that self-care begins and ends with a bubble bath. That's not the case. Self-care is much bigger than that. We have to practice caring for ourselves the way that we care for others, for the ones that we love. And this includes feeding ourselves nutritious food, getting good sleep, prioritizing activities that bring us joy and make us happy, spending time with people who truly love us and who we feel safe with. Self-care quite literally means caring for ourselves. This includes no longer putting yourself last, but making yourself a priority. One of the most basic ways that I show Judah that I care about him is by making sure that his needs are met. Neglecting our own needs, it undermines our self-care. We have to put ourselves back on the important list, okay? You are important. I am important. We need to put ourselves back on the list of priorities of important things. Self-care literally means caring for ourselves and caring about ourselves. So what do you do for the people that you care about? How do you express to them that you care about them? And how can you apply those methods to your relationship with yourself? That is self-care. Building block number 3 is self-esteem. Self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves. It is the regard we hold ourselves in. When we esteem someone highly, it means that we hold them in high regard. So healthy self-esteem means that we hold ourselves in high regard. So how do we build upon and increase the regard in which we hold ourselves? How do we increase that if we begin by not holding ourselves in very high regard? How do we increase that regard that we have for ourselves? One basic and beginning way to do this is to take notice of what you're proud of. What have you accomplished in your life? What have you achieved? What have you worked for? What have you earned? What character qualities do you have that you admire in yourself? What physical features are you proud of? The only way to build and develop self-esteem is to focus on the qualities within you that inspire pride and a sense of accomplishment. Write them down, meditate on them, remind yourself of them often. Whatever you focus on magnifies. What you focus on gets bigger. Okay? What you ignore falls away. It's very much out of sight, out of mind. So if something is right in front of you and you're looking right at it, you're thinking about it. So put in front of yourself the things that you've accomplished, the things that you're proud of, the qualities that you have, the features that you have, who you are as a person that you are proud of. Put that right in front of your face and meditate on it. Think about it. Remind yourself of them often. The more you turn your attention toward the aspects of yourself that inspire pride, the more proud you will feel of who you are and what you've done. And this is how we build self-esteem. So that's pillar number 3, or building block number 3, self-esteem. And lastly, the last one is our self-talk. How we speak to and about ourselves greatly influences our ability to love ourselves. It's incredibly difficult, if not impossible altogether, to develop self-love in an atmosphere of constant negative self-talk. If you are constantly speaking negatively to yourself, you are not ever going to be able to build self-love. We have to address our self-talk if we are going to get anywhere in the realm of self-love. This is so important. I cannot emphasize it enough. One of the ways that we express, give, and receive love is through words of affirmation. When someone tells us that they enjoy our presence, we feel loved by them. When someone expresses gratitude for something we've done, we feel loved by them. When someone compliments us, we feel seen and valued. We must begin to find these positive words for ourselves and speak them to ourselves. Just as with self-esteem, you need to focus on what you're proud of about yourself, focus on what you admire, and then remind yourself of these things with intention and purpose. When you catch yourself saying something negative to yourself, pause. Immediately stop and think of evidence to counter that negative. For example, if you find yourself mumbling under your breath that you are such an idiot, pause. Remind yourself that you graduated with honors, that you started a business, that you managed the household finances so well that now your debt is paid off. What have you done well? What are you great at? What have you accomplished? You must learn We must learn to remind ourselves of these qualities in order to counterbalance those negative tapes that we play in our head. We have to replace it with something positive. So find the evidence. Do you see how I use as an example, if what you're saying to yourself is, I'm such an idiot, then that is an insult on your intelligence. So I want you to find something that proves that you are not in fact an idiot, which is, I was the first person in my family to graduate college, not an idiot. I completely revamped our household budget and got us out of debt, and now we're building a savings, and not an idiot. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're really great at mechanics or organization, or maybe you're awesome at puzzles. Like, I can't do Sudoku to save my life. So like, what are you good at? Find evidence of something you're good at that disproves the allegation that you made against yourself, the attack that you waged against yourself, against your intelligence. If you are mumbling something about, oh, my butt is so big, pause. Think of something about you positive. Okay, maybe my butt's a little bigger than I want it to be, but you know what? I have a really great smile. Okay. Focus on the positive. What you focus on magnifies. What you ignore, what you push aside, it's out of sight, out of mind. When it comes to our self-talk and our self-esteem, we have to hold these things at the forefront of our mind and focus on them, so that they grow and get bigger. When it comes to learning to love ourselves, we cannot go from 0 to 100 overnight. We have to first develop these building blocks. This is where it starts. If you have found yourself asking, I want to learn to love myself, but I don't know how to do it, I'm telling you how to do it. These are the cornerstones. These are the building blocks. This is where we start. Break it down into smaller pieces, because self-love is this big, massive thing, right? Loving myself. I gotta love myself. I've spent so long not loving myself. I don't know how to do that. Okay, let's break it down. What's underneath that? What are the pieces that build that? Let's focus on those first and build our way up. Okay? So, first, develop the building blocks. We can gain mastery over self-respect, self-care, self-esteem, self-talk. And when we stack these building blocks up, that is how we climb the mountain of self-love, that mountain that seems insurmountable. It's not insurmountable, but we have to use the blocks to get there, okay? So those are your building blocks of self-love, okay? Self-respect, self-care, self-esteem, and self-talk. Here's your action plan. I want you to make a list of accomplishments, qualities, features that you admire in yourself. Okay, so make that list. All of the things. What have you done? What have you accomplished? What have you earned? What have you achieved? What character qualities have you developed within yourself? What physical features do you like or that you're proud of? Make a list of all of these things. Put that list where you can see it. Read it daily. Remind yourself every day of the wonderful things that make you you. And number 3, practice your building blocks. Practice what I've shared with you tonight. Practice makes perfect. We're not going to get there unless we truly work on it. It's not going to happen naturally. You're not going to wake up one morning and just be instantly loving yourself. And I guarantee you, my sisters, I guarantee you, there is no amount of weight loss that is going to make you love yourself. You do not love yourself when the scale hits a certain size, when your pants hit a certain size. That is not when you start to love yourself. You love yourself right now, in this moment, who you are, as you are right now. And you love yourself all the way to the healthiest version of you. That's how you do it, not the other way around. You are not going to automatically love yourself when you finally get the job you want, finally drive the car you want, finally earn the money you want, finally meet the person that you want, finally feel loved by another human being, finally fit in the pant size you want, finally hit the goal weight you want. Though that's not when you start loving yourself. Self-love begins right now. It begins with you where you are right now. And those are the building blocks of how to get there. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I love you dearly, and my hope and prayer for you is that you truly begin to do the work to learn how to love yourself. I'm living proof that it's possible. I'm not all the way there. By no means am I all the way there, but I'm not who I was a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. List them again. The computer glitched during action items. Okay, no problem. The action plan is make a list of your accomplishments, your qualities and features that you admire about yourself. Number 2, put that list where you can see it and meditate on it daily. And number 3, practice the building blocks that I shared with you. All right, you guys, thanks, Janet, for letting me know that happened. I don't know if that was on my end or your end. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. Hopefully you got the information that you need and you're all set for the week. That's it, you guys. I love you so much. Next week is Q&A for October, okay? It will be the 20th, the 3rd, or 3rd, maybe 4th. I don't know. Do we have 4? 3rd. I think it'll be the 3rd. Anyways, next week is Q&A, so please get your questions ready. Please, please, please be here live with your chat feature on so that we can have a great dialogue. I really look forward to seeing you, and have a wonderful week. Love yourselves. You are worthy and deserving of it. Mwah, mwah, mwah.